We stand on the brink of a great social revolution. This was not just a call to action, it echoed through the heart of the civil rights movement in 1964. Despite decades of struggle, systemic racism persisted, and democracy remained unfulfilled for millions of African Americans. As protests erupted, the urgent question remained: how do we confront this injustice? In the wake of violence, Martin Luther King Jr. faced a crossroads. The urgency of the civil rights struggle intensified, as groups like the Black Panther Party advocated for self-defense. The assassinations of leaders like Malcolm X deepened fears, leading many to question whether peaceful protests could foster change in an America seemingly deaf to their suffering. Against this turmoil, MLK delivered his iconic speech, "The Ballot or the Bullet." It framed political engagement in stark terms. The ballot symbolized a peaceful response to injustice, while the bullet hinted at a primal despair. In a nation that had long disenfranchised African Americans, King reminded them of their power to vote to influence their fate. This speech responded to the growing impatience within the civil rights community. After the Civil Rights Act, many felt it fell short of addressing deep-rooted issues like economic inequality and police brutality. King articulated a truth felt by millions: silence could lead to violence. It is criminal, he asserted, to have a legal document that has no moral power. He spoke not just to African Americans but to anyone who believed in justice. He framed the choice between the ballot and the bullet with keen awareness of the stakes. As frustrations boiled over, King sought to channel that rage into constructive action, encouraging people to register to vote, to run for office. With each passing year, hope waned as they faced brutality and despair. His challenge was profound: choose the ballot while recognizing the looming threat of violence. MLK's context reminds us of a time when civil rights faced fierce resistance. Are we still on that precipice? King's message remains relevant. His legacy calls for reflection and action, to consider our choices against injustice. The future of our nation depends on how we handle this moment. In the 1960s, King faced stark choices alongside civil rights activists. The ballot or the bullet. Each path bore consequences, rippling through society. King's commitment to nonviolence was tested amid racial violence. The 1963 March on Washington had united thousands in a cry for justice, yet insurrection simmered beneath the surface. The Birmingham campaign thrust King into the national spotlight. Confronting brutal segregation, he faced Bull Connor, the police commissioner. Images of peaceful protesters being met with fire hoses and dogs filled homes across America. This visceral violence contrasted sharply with King's message of love and peace. While waiting for trial, he penned his letter from Birmingham jail, articulating the moral imperative to act against injustice. "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere," he declared. His words resonated, urging individuals to recognize their shared responsibility in the fight against oppression. Yet doubts lingered: could nonviolent resistance endure against such aggression? King grappled with the mounting frustration of African Americans, who felt their patience was exhausted. The summer of 1964 brought violence as racial tensions erupted, manifesting in riots across cities. As the Voting Rights Act of 1965 approached, Selma became a focal point for activists demanding voting rights. When King led the march from Selma to Montgomery, he faced not just physical threats but the psychological toll of relentless oppression. The marchers endured brutality on the Edmund Pettus Bridge as they sought to exercise their rights. This violence transformed a local struggle into a national outcry. King's commitment to nonviolence remained steadfast amidst chaos. He believed love could triumph over hatred. However, complacency was no longer an option. He addressed this dichotomy in his speeches, advocating for the ballot as a means for change. We must meet hate with love. We must meet physical force with soul force. Yet divisions grew within the civil rights movement, as some advocated for self-defense. This rift sparked debates on the effectiveness of nonviolence versus armed resistance. Would the civil rights movement succeed through peaceful protest or require a more forceful response? Even amid this turbulence, King rallied support, reinforcing the idea that the civil rights struggle encompassed human dignity and justice for all. The choice remained clear: the ballot or the bullet. As the nation watched, leaders like King forged a path toward hope, altering American history forever. In 1963, as tensions escalated in Birmingham, King found himself at a crossroads. The cries for justice echoed through the streets, but so did violence. Birmingham was a battleground, where the fight was starkly drawn. King knew the world was watching. This was pivotal. As King and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference prepared for the Birmingham campaign, they faced fierce opposition. In April, King was arrested during a peaceful protest, and within his cell, he penned his profound letter from Birmingham jail. It illuminated the moral imperative of resistance and articulated the necessity of nonviolent protest. King wrote about the interconnectedness of all communities. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. His words ignited inspiration. Images of peaceful protesters contrasted with the brutal force of law enforcement. Fire hoses and police dogs faced down demonstrators, met with dignity and courage. The nation began to understand that the civil rights struggle was linked to American democracy. King's resolve solidified. He recognized that the choice between ballot and bullet was both an action and a moral question. The 1964 Civil Rights Act, a legislative victory from activists' efforts, outlawed discrimination, but King knew laws alone wouldn't heal centuries of injustice. As summer approached, King focused on voter registration in the South through initiatives like Freedom Summer. Young activists faced intimidation and violence, but King encouraged perseverance. This struggle was about dignity and self-determination. King's vision of a beloved community built on justice and peace took root. He spoke of a dream where children would be judged by their character, igniting hope. Yet the shadow of violence loomed. As 1965 unfolded, demands for change grew urgent. The Selma to Montgomery marches exemplified this fervor. King marched for voting rights, facing brutal attacks from law enforcement. The images of Bloody Sunday captivated the nation, laying bare a stark choice: continue oppression or rise with courage. In these defining moments, King demonstrated that the choice between ballot and bullet was a moral question. Would America embrace justice and equality or succumb to vengeance and despair? King insisted that love and understanding must prevail. The moment had come. In April 1967, at the Riverside Church in New York City, King delivered the ballot or bullet speech, a clarion call for African Americans to recognize the potency of their vote. His voice resonated with urgency, revealing the consequences of disenfranchisement. It is criminal to have a legal document that has no moral power, he stated, exposing the irony of a democracy that silenced its citizens. This was a moment of reckoning, a stark acknowledgement that without their voices, African Americans were mere spectators in their own fate. His words cut through the air with precision, exposing the wounds of racial injustice. In his flowing rhetoric, King depicted an American landscape marred by inequality yet brimming with potential for change. He urged his audience to recognize the transformative power of the ballot. The stakes were high: to remain inactive was to concede oppression, to embrace the ballot was to pave the road to freedom. This was the crux of his message, delivered with the fervor of a preacher and the insight of a strategist. King urged his audience to confront their reality: lost jobs, restricted education, communities ravaged by violence. Each injustice was a call to action. He spoke of their ancestors, whose sacrifices laid groundwork for rights still denied. His voice surged with conviction. He laid bare their choice: violence would breed hatred and destruction, but embracing the ballot seized their agency, speaking not only for themselves but for future generations. His message was a vision where justice and equality could reign supreme. As King stood before the crowd, he embodied the pulse of a nation yearning for change. He was not merely delivering a speech, he was a prophet, a beacon of hope amidst oppression. Empowerment surged through the audience, ignited by his passionate rhetoric. Each phrase was a drumbeat, urging them to march forward, to wield their votes as tools of liberation. This defining moment affirmed King's role as a leader and the power of collective action. The ballot over the bullet was a declaration of moral integrity, a commitment to pursuing justice through love. As the speech concluded, a renewed sense of purpose filled the air. They knew they held the power to shape their destiny, to forge a future where equality was a tangible reality. The echo of King's words in his Ballot or Bullet speech resonates with urgency that remains relevant today. His insistence on the ballot as a tool for change is a cornerstone for understanding modern activism and the ongoing battle for voting rights. King articulated the stakes with clarity: the future of our nation depends on how we handle this moment. This sentiment echoes today, as marginalized communities still grapple with systemic obstacles at the ballot box. King warned about the consequences of inaction and understood that once democracy is compromised, the temptation toward violence grows. His words remind us that the struggle for equity and justice is ongoing. His speech resonates deeply with the philosophies underpinning the civil rights movement. The commitment to nonviolence, elevating discourse over destruction, was revolutionary and continues to inspire movements today. Organizations advocating for justice draw from King's teachings. As they march and engage in dialogue, they embody his vision, rejecting violence, embracing empowerment, and believing in the power of the vote. The themes of the Ballot or Bullet speech permeate global discussions on social justice and human rights. The battle for the ballot continues worldwide, where citizens, inspired by nonviolent resistance, demand their voices be heard. King's message transcends borders, reminding us that while particulars may differ, the desire for justice and dignity remains constant. As we stand today, the weight of King's call reverberates through our collective consciousness. The choice to engage or disengage, to wield the ballot or resort to the bullet, weighs heavily in our political landscape. Ignoring this choice risks the foundation of our democracy. Each of us possesses the power to influence history, advocate for rights, and embody the principles King fought for. As we ponder these questions, let us reflect on the contemporary implications of King's message. The fight for civil rights is ongoing, and we are all part of that struggle. Honoring Martin Luther King Jr. today means standing up against injustice, advocating for the silenced, and participating fervently in our democracy. This is a living testament to King's values. The dream lives within each of us, waiting to be ignited. Reflect on your choices. In a world where the ballot and the bullet clash, strive to honor King's legacy by engaging, showing compassion, and maintaining resolve. Our collective responsibility is to build upon his fight, ensuring future generations inherit a world marked by understanding and justice.